Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're back with another snapshot. This is Snapshot 25w19a. And I'm not going to lie, the game looks a lot different. Now, I don't know why that is. All I do know, in this week's snapshot, they have made changes to fog. So let's quickly have a look at the patch notes to begin with. And you can see right here, they have made some changes to fog. If we scroll up to the top here, you can see right here, fog was tweaked. And it also now becomes foggier when it rains. So if we jump to the bottom of the patch note, they've mentioned a little bit here about how fog has changed. So it is now split into two different environmental and render distance. Previously, they were both mixed into the same sort of concept. So the environmental fog is supposed to represent the fogginess of the environment the player is in. So this is basically lava, water, and things like that. And then render distance fog is supposed to be the border of the visible terrain. And you can see a little bit more about this right here. And then also the resulting fog value for any given vertex is maximum of both. And then they also do fog start was renamed to fog render distance start. And then fog end was renamed to fog render distance end. And they added two new ones for fog environmental start and fog environmental end. And fog shape is now removed, and that is just because the shape is now set depending on what one you want. Now this is what a game looks like. It looks very dimmer than it normally does. I haven't changed anything within the video settings, so how the game looks, that is how Minecraft have made it look. And it looks very blurry. I don't know if there's settings to adjust this in any way without the use of resource packs or anything. Looking at video settings, there doesn't seem to be any new video settings. So let's quickly just have a look. It says that it gets foggier when it rains. So let's just set the weather to raining real quick to see how foggy it gets. Okay. Okay, that is kind of cool. It just goes more like a grey fog. It didn't seem to be any foggier than it was. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this. It might be one of them things that just takes time to get used to, but it looks very dull, the game now, even when it is daytime. If we quickly just clear the weather, you can see the game just looks very saturated and blurry. Okay, now it looks better. That kind of blurriness has kind of gone. It's still there in like the distance, but it seems to be a lot better than what it was. So what is the fog like when it is nighttime? Let's set it to midnight real quick. Okay, there isn't really that noticeable fog when it's nighttime. Let's also see what it's like underwater. There doesn't seem to be any huge changes when you're underwater as far as I can see. Okay, so it seems like this is just more back-end things. It doesn't seem like it's going to affect gameplay too much, at least from just testing a little bit. But once again, I don't know why when I first loaded the world, it looks so weird. It seems to be mostly gone now. I can still see it in like the distance. Now, also within this snapshot, it's a very small one this week. They did make some changes to projectiles. So in prior updates, all projectiles had a fixed 0.3 blocks target tolerance margin. Now, I think this means that when you threw it, it would like sort of move between that 0.3 blocks. Now, inside this update, it says every single block in the game has a target tolerance of 0.0, and this is increased by 0.05 for every tick it's in the air. So if I quickly just paste the patch notes, you can see now all projectiles start with no margin for the first 2 ticks of their flight. After that, the target margin will expand by 0.05 blocks per tick until it reaches the 0.3 blocks. Now, they do also explain why this was made. This change was made to allow for better precision close to shooting player or entity, while still allowing for some collision leeway when the projectile is far away. I don't think this is going to be something we can easily test just by throwing, but I think it just means that projectiles might be able to travel a little bit further now because they don't drop as quickly. Now, I'm going to be totally honest, I don't know what this means. I don't know how much this is going to affect gameplay, and it's quite hard to test because obviously I try to get these videos out as quickly as possible, and there's not much I can really do with just throwing projectiles. But once again, if you have messed around with this a lot and you know what this means, me throwing the projectiles like this, you'll probably be able to notice a difference. I can notice kind of a difference. It seems like the arrows are traveling a little bit further. I think the arrows are traveling a lot straighter than they normally do, but that could just be me seeing it because it's mentioned in the patch notes that they've changed something about it. Now, there are some other small changes which I'm going to quickly mention, but the projectile changes and the fog changes is the main focus of this week. But there are some small minor tweaks. First off, TNT will now store the player that ignites it as its owner. So if I was to ignite this TNT will store my player UUID as the owner of the TNT. So if you wanted to get that within a data pack or a mod, that is something you can do. Now, I mentioned that TNT now stores the data, and this is because if I was to ignite this TNT, leave the world, and then reload it, in prior updates, the TNT would forget who ignited it, meaning that if it was to then kill someone, that player wouldn't get kill credit. And this is the same with Vexes. Vexes will now also store their owner within their data. So, for example, when they are spawned by an evoker, the evoker is technically their owner. Now, it also seems like they have done some changes to the Happy Ghast and its scaling, because obviously inside of Java Edition, you have the attribute scale command. I can do this quite easily just by holding a harness, and it won't venture too far away. So if I was to do /attribute, and then I was to get the attribute of this, and then we was to do the scale. So it says here that they've basically capped the Happy Ghast to scale at 1.0, which I think is its default value. So we can make this smaller by doing it 0.5, for example, and you can see the Happy Ghast has gotten a lot smaller. But if I was to do anything more than 1, it shouldn't gain size. So let's quickly just do 7.0. And yes, you can see it didn't change size, and that is just because Minecraft have basically capped the scale at 1.0. Now, they do also pass a insight on why they removed the scale command for the Happy Ghast. And this was removed because if you was to scale a Happy Ghast and then stand on top of them, it would become very unreliable, buggy, and sometimes impossible. So instead of trying to find a fix for this, it seems like Minecraft have just capped it out and you can no longer scale these. Now, they've also made some behind the scenes changes to the panorama, and that is only for people who add custom ones. If you add in your own custom ones, all the textures now need to be the same size, and they also need to be square, otherwise it will not work. Now, once again, another technical thing that they've changed in this update is where effect textures are stored. Okay, I misunderstood this, but I've now read it properly, and it's the atlases that has been removed in this update. There used to be one for mob effects, so if we was to quickly just copy this, and let's go back to the prior snapshot, which was 25w19a. So if we was to go here, atlases, you can see there is a mob effects atlas, which just stores where the mob effect directory is. And obviously inside of this snapshot, this is no longer here. So if I paste this, you can see it has been removed. It is now stored in the GUI atlases, as you can see right there. Now, they've also made some changes to the dried Ghast block sound, and I think they have just removed the punching sound just because obviously it is instantly destroyed. Like when you punch a block of sand, it plays that sand sound. Well, there was one for the dried Ghast, but because it's an instant break, there doesn't need to be one because it instantly plays the destroy sound. Now, also inside of this snapshot, they have changed the data pack version to version 76, and they have changed resource pack version to 60. So if you're making a data pack or resource pack and you are using it inside of the snapshot, you'll need to update this inside of the pack MC meta files. Now, a decent bug that has been fixed in this snapshot is if you are standing on top of a Happy Ghast and you was to leave the world and rejoin, you'll now no longer fall through the mob. As you can see, I log back in and I'm still standing on top of it. But anyway, that is it for this snapshot. Once again, it's a very small one and it seems like it's just a load of bug fixes and small minor tweaks. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, do like and subscribe. If you do understand the changes they have made to the projectiles, do let me know in the comments and I will pin the one that is the most useful so other players who maybe don't understand it either can get a better insight of what has changed. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!